Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to joining us on today's virtual keynote. Thanks so much for coming. Very excited to have Gary Illyes, that's my best attempt at it, Gary, back with us today. Well, yeah, you always tell me that. So I'm wrong about a lot of other things too. Just so everybody knows, the hashtag for today's event is hashtag Virtual Keynote. And if you don't know Gary, tough. No, I mean, he's fairly well known at Google. He's a Webmaster trends analyst. He does a lot of stuff. He's tinkered in the algorithms in certain specific areas. Does a lot of support for people through the Webmaster Central blog and speaking all over the place. An amazing resource. Thanks so much for joining us, Gary.
Wait, are we live?
Yes, we are. That's why I'm saying.
Oh, but I haven't fixed my hair yet.
Well, then maybe we should just hang up and start over. Is that what you want to do?
No. Thank you for having me.
Well,
again.
Awesome. So just so everybody knows on the show, today we're going to take on the topic of, many topics: robot control, indexation control, SEO tags, managing overall site quality. We're not going to spend any time on how to implement these specific tags and things, because you can just use Google and search and learn how to do that. Instead, we're going to focus on how they work and what they do and the right situations to use them in. And we're going to go through a lot of real-world scenarios, including some advanced scenarios, and the impact they have on a website. So if you've got an e-commerce site, you've got to know this stuff cold. And I'm going to share some examples that tell you just how big an impact these tags have us. And with us, of course, is Mark Traphagen. He's going to be the master of the Q&A session, which is starting in about 30 minutes. Also, he will be actively interacting with you in YouTube comments for the event. So you can actually start interacting with him now and asking him all sorts of personal questions. And hopefully focusing on the event. Again, our hashtag Virtual Keynote. So if you're sharing stuff on social media, please use that to foster the discussion. So with that, let's go. We ready? Gary, you ready?
So I want to mention one more thing.
Yeah.
Another thing that we are not going to talk about is this guy, which is a penguin.
Thank you for telling us. You mean this guy right here?
That looks like a psychopath penguin.
It is a psychopath penguin. So
I do think the audience needs to know that Gary drew that by himself, that penguin, right live in front of us in about 3 minutes, just seconds ago. So it's awesome.
Yeah,
it was actually 4 minutes.
Important skills that are in Gary's portfolio here. So, all right, if we're ready, what I'd like to do is just start kind of going through the various solutions you can use for helping with robot control and indexation control and these kinds of things. Just make sure we're clear on what each of them do, and then we'll get into the advanced scenarios after that. Does that make sense?
Can I say no?
You can say no. Go ahead, say no.
No.
And then what would you like to do instead?
No, let's just do it.
Okay, there you go. So for the no index, so my understanding is that this is a directive, not a suggestion. Is that
yes.
Correct?
Yes. Pretty much everything in the robots exclusion protocol is a directive, not a suggestion.
Yeah. So we'll pull your page from the index. The page can still be crawled. Will still be crawled, I should say. It still accumulates page rank.
Yes, that's correct.
And it can pass page rank through the links found on the page.
And that's correct as well, yes.
So, although it's fairly inefficient at passing page rank in one sense, because if it's a page you've decided to not have in the index, kind of just spews it through all the links.
Yes, no. I don't think that or there's any dissipation in passing page rank. Another thing that I want to mention that like you are focusing on PageRank, but there are a shit ton of other signals that are passed on and play or together play a very important role in passing or in ranking pages. For example, hreflang. Yeah, I just want to say that passing signals is a better way to phrase this than just PageRank.
Right. Are there signals other than hreflang that you can mention, or?
Let's not go there now. Maybe if we have time at the end, then we will cover that.
Okay. So another question that people typically have about no-index is, does the call frequency of a no-index page decline over time?
Yes. Typically, it will decline for any page that we cannot index for whatever reason. Basically, we will try to crawl a few more times to see if the no-index is gone or if the page recovered from a 500 or whatever. And if the no-index is still there, then we will slowly start to move or to not crawl that page that often. We will still probe that page every now and then, probably every 2 months, every 3 months. We will visit the page again to see if the no-index is still there. But we will very likely not crawl it that often.
Right.
Anymore.
Yeah. So it will decline, and so this idea, you do get some robot control with the no-index in some sense, because it gets dropped down a bit. So that's good to know. So next up, Rel Canonical. Basically, the Rel Canonical, as I understand it, says, hey, I'm not the page you need to be paying attention to, Google. The real page I want you to pay attention to is over here where I'm pointing, and I'm going to pass all my signals over there.
Yep.
And the assumption is that the page with the Rel Canonical is a subset or a duplicate of the page which it's pointing the canonical to.
Yeah. It can be pretty much any page, actually. It doesn't have to be a subset or anything. Basically, if you have like a random page on a site and you don't want to have that indexed anymore, then you can suggest search engines with a Rel Canonical to actually pick up another page instead of that one, and you will pass on pretty much all signals, all relevant signals.
And for the most part, so that the page with the Rel Canonical on it doesn't end up in the indexed. It still gets crawled. It still accumulates signals, but it passes all those signals to the target of its canonical.
Correct.
Yeah. And then presumably then the crawl frequency of that will also decline over time.
Yes. Since it doesn't become canonical, we will not spend that much time crawling it. It's probably not worth it anyway.
Right.
You probably had a good reason to point the Rel Canonical to somewhere else, and we will rather spend time on crawling that page instead, where you pointed to with the Rel Canonical.
Now, for a fun fact, by the way, one of the world's largest retailers canonicals all the facets in their navigation to their homepage. We actually, there's also a site that for a period of time this past fall, for 3 months, this is a site that is an internet, a really well-known site on the internet. I won't name them, but was really known for their SEO expertise, and they were doing exactly the same thing. They were canonically all their facets to their homepage. That seems like a broken implementation.
Well, it's up to the webmaster, right? If you don't, I mean, it's up to you if you want your facets indexed. Probably it's not the brightest thing to do. Probably it's better to pick a few important pages rather than the homepage where you Rel Canonical. I do agree that you probably don't want to have all the facets indexed. It's probably not worth it because some of them will be just duplicates of previously previously crawled and indexed facets. So I would probably rather just pick or create maybe a category page for the most important facets and point the Rel Canonical there if you don't want all the facets indexed.
Right. So in what you're sharing here today, though, it sounds like relevancy isn't as major an issue as most of us in the SEO community tend to believe.
In this case, no.
Yeah. But does it still make sense then, though, to sort of start with an assumption of I probably want a canonical to something highly relevant, but just not get too hung up with being religious about that? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. All right. Next up, robots.txt. Directive. Don't crawl the page. The page could still be indexed if other signals suggest it should be.
Yep.
And of course, it doesn't pass PageRank because you can't see what it, or it doesn't pass signals. Sorry, because you can't actually see what signals it's trying to pass.
Yep, that's correct.
Awesome. That was an easy one. Okay. Now, rel equals prev next. So this is identifying a paginated sequence of pages. Yeah. So the example is you might have 100 shoe products and you show 10 shoes per page, and it takes 10 pages to show it. And you kind of normally have HTML links you click that users would click to travel between those pages. Mm-hmm. But prev next is a tagging system to help Google make sure it understands that set of pages as a sequence.
Yes, that's correct.
The pages aren't removed from the index, however, but the group of
they can become canonicals on their own as well, I think.
Yes. So the group of pages, to some degree, are treated by Google like one block.
Yes.
And does that mean that all the signals into any of the pages in that block accrue to the benefit of the whole block?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the whole point of the rel prag.
Correct. But you might still return a page other than the first in the sequence.
Yeah.
If a user query was more relevant to a specific product on the 7th page.
Exactly.
Anything that I left out with prev next?
I don't think so. I think you cover pretty much everything.
All right. Excellent. So you're the host of the show, and no, never mind. Okay. Well, I'm trying to lay the groundwork for
a bit of background. I know that Eric has like a ton of questions, and I'm trying to be very short with my answers so we can cover as much as possible. And if he's actually correct with what he's saying, then I will not try to argue with.
Yeah. That. Well, I mean, you'll argue with me just for the sake of arguing with me, but that's a wholly different.
Yeah, that's something different.
Yeah, no, and we're trying to get through the basics and lay the foundation because, yeah, we do have a bunch of questions. So now, Href lang.
Yeah.
All right. So this is where we have different international versions of pages, and you implement a tag to tell Google where to find the French version of a page or the French version in Switzerland version of a page. I did that right. Yes. And handle different language cases so that it just helps Google find all the international versions. Yeah?
Yes.
The thing that people
it's not just helping find us the pages, but also rank the pages. So, for example, if we know that there's a French version for Swiss users, and the query is in French, or maybe even if the user interface is in French, then we will prefer to show first the French version of the page.
Right. So this helps sites a lot with multiple languages and countries to better target and show up in the correct versions of the pages in the local search engines.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one thing that people get tripped up on is, as I understand it, you can specify language only or language and country, but you can't specify country only.
That's correct.
Right. So the big question there, does tagging need to be 100% reciprocal?
Yes. If it's not, then we will ignore the those links from the cluster. So for example, so if A links to B, but B doesn't link back, then B will not get into the hreflang cluster.
Yeah, this is a very common mistake we see with sites, by the way, is that they do this one-way tagging, and so you just heard it from Gary. That means the tag is ignored. So all that effort you put into putting that tag up there is now wasted.
Well, for that particular link, if the other links are correct, then we will still use those.
Yeah. So that handshaking or reciprocality, is that a word?
Well, you just made one, so.
Well, I'll call it reciprocalness instead. If I'm going to invent a word, I might as well make it harder to say. Yeah, that's an essential part of the spec. Okay. So is this a problem if you've got like 50 different language country variations? That's a lot of code to put on every page.
Oh, from that point of view. So from our point of view, processing-wise, I think we do limit the number of hreflang links that a page can have, but the number is something on the order of hundreds, because we believe that after a certain number of hreflang links, it's probably just a mistake or spam or something like that. Bytes-wise, probably you want to limit how much you put in the HTML, or in the header, which is even worse. But you can definitely use sitemaps to specify your hreflang tags, and then you don't put additional payload in the HTML that can slow down the page. Yeah,
no, that's important. That there are those alternative ways to put up hreflang.
Yep.
Cool. So we start to get into some of the more specific questions.
Oy, oy.
Yes, I knew you were excited for this part. Historically, people have talked about Google having a crawl budget.
Okay.
Is that a correct notion? Like, Google comes and they're going to take 327 pages from your site today?
It's not by page. Like how many pages do we want to crawl? We have a notion internally which we call host load, and that's basically how much load do we think a site can handle from us. But it's not based on number of pages. It's more like what's the limit, or what's the threshold or after which the server becomes slower, for example, or stuff like that. I think what you are talking about is actually scheduling. Basically, how many pages do we ask from indexing side to be crawled by Googlebot? That's driven mainly by the importance of the pages on a site, not by number of URLs or how many URLs we want to crawl. It doesn't have anything to do with host load. It's more like, okay, if this is just an example, but for example, if this URL is in a sitemap, then we will probably want to crawl it because crawl it sooner or more often because you deem that page more important by putting it in a sitemap. We can also learn that this might not be true when sitemaps are automatically generated, and like for every single URL there's a URL entry in the sitemap, and then we will use other signals. For example, high PageRank URLs, and now I did want to say PageRank, probably should be crawled more often. And we have a bunch of other signals that we use that I will not say, but Basically, the more important the URL is, the more often will be recrawled. And once we recrawled a bucket of URLs, of high importance URLs, then we will just stop. We will probably not go further. Every single, I will say day, but it's probably not a day, we create a bucket of URLs that we want to crawl from a site, and we fill that bucket with URLs sorted by the signals that we use for scheduling, which is sitemaps, PageRank, whatever. And then from the top, we start crawling and crawling and crawling and crawling. And if we see that the server, and if we can finish the bucket, fine. If we see that the server slowed down, then we will stop.
Right. So, but you do have, like, you have URLs that you probably touch multiple times a day, and others you touch every day, and others that rotate, and might have URLs that get touched only once a month, and others that get touched, once a week or something like that. So
right? I'm teaching internally a class called Lifehacker for new Google engineers, which is how search really works. And there I explain this with an example, like take the homepage of CNN and then take the About page of CNN or Turner. The About page changes probably once a year, maybe, if it changes. The homepage changes every minute, let's say.
Right.
You have to crawl the homepage much, much more often than the About page, because users typically want fresh pages or fresh content in the search results. So you will just prioritize the crawling of the CNN homepage over the About page.
Right. So is it correct to say then, and this is the reason why I went down this discussion path, that if I have pages that are duplicates, or that I'm not allowing in the index by one means or another, that if Google is spending time on your site crawling those pages, then they're spending less time crawling pages on your site that might get indexed?
Yes, definitely.
So the general concept of the reason why you need to master all these tags, there are many reasons, but one of them is so that Google spends more time on pages which you actually want them to index and that help you make money.
Yep.
I mean, basically. So, cool. All right. Some e-commerce basics. What would you say is the best way to deal with a page that has a sort order for various products? So default might be lowest to highest price, and the user switches to highest to lowest price. There's really no difference in the products listed on the page, just the order.
I would probably try to find, or to pick one sort order and Rel Canonical the other one to that one.
Yeah. All right, I agree. You're right. See, I thought I'd say that.
Thank you.
All right. What's the best way then to deal with a filter? So you're showing
same thing.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. And then how about minor facet variations, such as having different pages for each color and each size of the particular shirt for sale?
I guess the same thing.
Right. Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yes, it is. I agree with that. That's the same thing I would say. Actually, the reason why I always give that advice is because, in principle, Rel Canonical and NoIndex will both take the page out of the index, but the Rel Canonical gives you more control of where the signals get passed to.
Yeah.
Right?
Also, just a reminder that Rel Canonical is is not a directive. It's a strong suggestion, and it's only like one of the few dozen signals that we use for canonicalization. It's a strong signal. It's one of the strongest signals, but it's still just a signal.
So when do you choose not to respect a Rel Canonical?
Probably a combination of other signals, or something like if the target URL is roboted or not indexable in some way, then we would probably not pick that one.
Right.
Actually, that happened a few days ago. I was debugging a case where a Rel Canonical was pointing to an HTTPS URL or its HTTPS counterpart, but the HTTPS counterpart has certificate issues, which would render the page for the user how to say that?
Insecure?
Inaccessible.
Yeah.
In Chrome, at least. So it's not. It doesn't make sense to respect Rel Canonical in that case, for example.
Right. So, and what about the idea of using something like Ajax to actually just eliminate the creation of new URLs for sort orders and filters, right? So you have my
I answered this question a while ago.
Sorry?
You asked me on you actually published an article about this.
I did publish an article about this, but I'm just asking you for the purposes of the
so that would probably work, unless, that would probably work, and we would just default to the page that we go out on page load time.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And so I'm going to jump through some questions here so we can make sure we don't delay the Q&A with the audience too long. Does it
smells
ever...
like a trap.
Sorry, what?
It smells like a trap.
It could be a trap, but it isn't. I'll design a trap for next time, though, because now I feel obligated to do one.
Oh, great. My big mouth.
Well, it's just something to look forward to.
Oh, yeah.
So we haven't talked about Nofollow, but at last I understood about Nofollow, basically it said don't pass signals through this link, but any such signals that aren't passed through the link are essentially discarded. It's not redistributed to the rest of the page.
Yep.
Right? Or all the other links out from the page. That a fair summary?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so in that light, does it ever make sense to have a nofollow from a page on your site to another page on your site? So just so you know, this is one of my golden rules with clients: is never nofollow any. From if you have a page that you don't value, then nofollow isn't the answer. It's probably canonical or new index.
Yeah, it's probably not. Nofollow is probably never the answer, especially on your own site.
Yeah, no, you're making this.
I can think of like corner case scenarios where the target page would be roboted for whatever reason, and then if it's roboted but not indexed yet, then if you don't want to get that page indexed, then you probably don't want to point to it with anchors.
Okay. Right, so that way you take a roboted page and minimize its chances of showing in the index by passing a fewer signals.
Yeah.
There we go. All right. We have a counterpoint to my rule. Excellent. Excuse me.
But quite honestly, I can't think of other reasons. I mean, you probably want, or you probably can do like PageRank sculpting, but
it doesn't work because you lose the PageRank.
As far as I remember, we frown upon that thing, or at least Matt was frowning upon that thing. So you probably don't want to do that.
Right, but my understanding was because you just throw away, since you used the word PageRank, I'll use it this time too. You throw away the PageRank, it doesn't get reallocated to the other links.
Yeah.
So you don't gain anything.
Okay, fair enough.
I love that answer.
Not even that.
Okay, fair enough, he says, because he doesn't want to complete the thought that's running through his brain right now.
I can't comment on any details of any operation without explicit approval of the director.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so another scenario for you. When you have a large number of user-generated content pages, does it make sense to something like the following? So again, lots of UGC, quality uneven.
Okay.
And in general, you, in this case, only want to allow the things that are deemed to be quality elements to be indexable. So imagine this is, on an article site, for example. I know you don't like those in general, but it's a how-to site. I'm just using it as a reference point, or it could be a lot of reviews, pages of reviews. The idea is you place the unreviewed submissions in a folder, blocked in robots.txt, and then when they are deemed of quality, move them at that point to a place where they're crawlable and indexable. So the idea is you're accepting lots of user-generated content, and you're using this system to make sure you're only showing the good content to your audience, or to Google's audience.
Well, it would really depend on the quality of those comments or reviews or whatever, user interactions. Because I know several sites where I do actually enjoy finding just questions in the results, in the search results. Because, like for example, if I see that on that particular site there are lots of questions about robots.txt, then I can just jump in and answer a few of them at least, providing content or giving content to the site. Yeah, I think it depends on the quality of the comments or the user content. If it's mostly buy Viagra in the Canadian casino without prescription, then probably you don't want to get those indexed.
Unless you're trying to rank for that.
Yes. Whoa, that would be tough. But
oh, come on, there's not much competition for that kind of search phrase.
No, at all. But yeah, it depends on the content, and of course, like moderation. That's also a really good thing to do in any UGC case. Right. Pick a few trusted members from your community if you don't have time to moderate comments and user-generated content in general, and let them be the authority, I guess. I think Stack Overflow, for example, does this amazingly well, or the Stack Exchange sites in general. If they can do it, I don't see why others wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah. All right, great. And by the way,
back to the how-to sites, I would categorize Lifehacker, for example, as a how-to site. But I do actually love that site. That guy publishes awesome ideas about how to hack random stuff, and I think users also love it. It has a large community formed around the site. I don't think there's a huge problem with how-to sites. It's more about how you do the how-to sites.
Well, and how you keep the quality level really high.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. All right, for those of you waiting for the Q&A, we're going to start in just a couple of minutes. I have like 2 more questions to cover with Gary, and then we're going to dive right in.
If you remember, he said the same thing like 10 minutes ago as well. But anyway, just go on with those 2 questions.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your permission. This is what all our conversations are like, by the way, for those of you out here. So very dry, almost inane sometimes. But anyway, okay. So here's a theory related to a very large site. Tens of millions of pages. And remember, we've talked a little bit about conserving our signals, of which PageRank is only one. And then we've talked about some of the issues with having too many pages for Google to crawl, so it's not effectively discovering the pages that you want them to value more. And helping Google find those more easily. So the conceptual idea is in the very high levels of the site, where the pages have more signals, including PageRank, because they're closer to the home page and may well have more external links. To focus on, for facets at that level, potentially using Canonical, because the reasons we talked about that before. But keeping in mind that we're now talking about a site with tens of millions of pages, maybe lower in the hierarchy where you have lots of incremental facets, which we're going to stipulate here are of real value to users. Maybe we just block those in robots.txt and worry less about the other signals and more on getting Google's crawl to focus on the pages that are more important.
So what's the question? Sorry.
How did that sound as a theory? That at one level it may be more important to preserve the signals, and but as you get on further and further down in the very large site, maybe you're better off conserving crawl. Crawl bandwidth, or it doesn't matter.
I mean, you have to get really, really, really big to have problems with this. I don't think that it's worth it to focus on this unless you, I don't know, like I don't even know a scale to tell you, like probably Amazon size.
Mm-hmm.
If you are on that scale, then you probably want to think about these things, but otherwise we have lots of disk, we have lots of bandwidth to burn.
Sure.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't worry about this.
Yeah, no, just to give you an idea, we had one site that we worked on a few years back, 700 million pages in the Google index. And they had a tagging structure that allowed tags to be randomly applied, even in orders and combinations that were completely nonsensical, and it would build the page. And we did a cleanup where we greatly constrained the way the tags could interact with each other.
Yeah.
And on that particular site, it was really interesting. Over the first 6 months after we did that, traffic actually didn't go up. The number of index pages went way down, but revenue went up significantly because they were bringing in people in for queries that were much better matched to the content of the pages.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. And then we had another one that had a very large faceted navigation, over 100 million pages as well, and a lot of thin content pages, just way too minor variations in their facets that were getting indexed. And we cleaned that one up, and within 3 months, 50% lift in traffic. I mean, these things, I think, I'm just giving these two examples as illustrations for people watching that doing this really well is a big deal.
Right, but you are not talking about crawler traffic. You're talking about search.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about the application of all the tagging and robots.txt that we've been addressing.
So the thing is that as soon as you have more focalized pages, it's natural that you will get better traffic.
Right.
I mean, higher quality traffic from search engines in general.
That's right.
So from that point of view, yes, narrow it down as much as you can. Like, don't create low quality, no value add pages. It's just not worth it, because one thing is that we don't necessarily want to index those pages. We think that it's a waste of resources. The other thing is that you will just not get quality traffic. And if you don't get quality traffic, then why are you burning resources on your server?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so now I'm going to keep my promise. It's Q&A time, and our Q&A master.
Just one question?
Sorry, what?
You said you have 2 questions.
I lied.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That was the trap. We
it's
sprung the trap.
So, but yes, with that, Mr. Mark Traphagen, who I know has been busily interacting with people, is going to start bringing us questions from the audience. Many of these, by the way, are more broader than the topic of today's show, but they will not talk about that red thing behind Gary's head there. So we won't be able to get the magic date for when Penguin is coming out. It's, oh wait, I'm not supposed to say that. So with that,
almost spilled it there. Almost spilled it.
indeed.
No, we do not know it. We do not know it. All right, should we dive in?
Yes, let's do it.
We have a freight load of questions this time. I'd say 3 to 4 times as many as we had. First of all, I want to thank everybody for the live interaction. It's been terrific, both on the YouTube channel and on Twitter. The hashtag Virtual Keynote, keep that coming. So that is the hashtag for the show, Virtual Keynote. But we've got more than enough questions here. We're not even going to get through a percentage of them here.
Yeah, but what we will do, if it's okay with you, Gary, if we could do what we did last time, where we take the questions we don't answer live and tweet them at you.
Yeah, sure. That sounds great.
So if you don't get your question answered live, we are going to try to get it answered by Gary with a personal guarantee of a 20% increase of traffic associated with that as well. Sorry, that last part I made up.
Mark, do you have any questions from Jess McDonald?
Yeah, I do. You want to go straight
to? Can we start with that one?
Sure. Okay, that's very nice of you. Let me find it here. I don't have it sorted by people. You know what I'm going to do is let me ask. He asked a question in the. Are you saying that because you had a specific question you knew he was going to ask?
No, we had an interaction a few weeks ago on Facebook, and I feel bad about the interaction.
Let me go to a question that he asked in the live chat here on YouTube. Okay. It says, have you guys seen any issues with setting no index tags using Yoast, the Yoast WordPress plugin? We've seen instances where Google will ignore this and index the page anyway.
With no index, if the no index is correctly put in the page, then we will not ignore that.
Right. So you should. It sounds like you should be checking, not just depending on the plugin to do it right, but after using the plugin, check the actual code of the page and see if the no index tag is correctly there.
The other thing to point out here that's really important is that Google won't apply the no index until the next time they crawl the page and see it. Yeah. So there can be a delay, and that might be what you're seeing.
Yeah. The other thing is that you also have to allow crawling the page. Otherwise, we will not see the no index. If we can't crawl the page, then because it's blocked by robots.txt or whatever, then we will not see the no index and can't apply it.
Right. The very common mistake people make is when they block pages in robots.txt, Google doesn't read the page. They actually respect that directive.
All right. So there you go, Jesse. Don't say we never did anything nice for you. He says it all the time.
Well, you can say that, but we won't believe you.
Here's a question from Stephanie Salmon at US News. She says, what is the best way to deal with search filtering for a page? For example, the page should be indexed, but there's a filter option using Ajax to narrow the results. Should that page have a rel canonical back to the original page?
I would have to see the specific scenario, but I think we talked about this with Eric. Basically, if you have an Ajax filter, then probably we'll or we most likely will index the default content that's loaded when we crawl the page, crawl and render the page, and ignore pretty much everything that happens after.
Well, I mean, if you're using Ajax and you're doing it at least the way that I think it's being done here, you don't have a new URL, so there isn't a new thing to index, right? So you've executed the Ajax and you just repainted part of the content in the page something. So Google, may or may not be able to see that content if they choose to go through the process of loading it. But as they've said at other times along the way recently, when it's that kind of action, they generally speaking ignore it. Is that fair, Gary?
Yeah.
All right, this may be a similar question, so if it's already been answered, just let me know. But this is from David Pratt at Carfax. He says, why would Google index a faceted page if it has a canonical to the root URL without the facet?
Because Rel Canonical is just a suggestion.
Yes, and I think we did cover that a little bit. There are cases where there are other signals that Google uses to help with canonicalization. Although Rel Canonical, if I remember this right, is a very strong one, it must be that some other signal is overriding it.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Avinash Kanda at Shutterfly wants to know how to compete with sites which are aggressively acquiring links, not following the best practices and even shady links, and still winning on the SERPs. In other words, how do you compete with Black Hat SEO when it's still working?
Report it. I don't remember the number, but I think it's 80% of the spam report. No, 60% of the spam reports are acted on. If you are convinced that someone is using black hat techniques to get better rankings, then report. Use the spam report form.
What's the best way for people to report that? How do they do that?
Yeah, email me. No, I was kidding.
A million emails a day. Congratulations.
We'll be tweeting out Gary's email at the end of the show.
We have a spam report form. I think it's living still inside Search Console, and you can use that. But the vast majority of the spam reports are acted on. So.
Okay, very good. This is from Jeff Angel at Grayco. He says, when href lang tags are used in a sitemap, but the sitemap does not have all of its URLs indexed by Google, the href lang tags pointing to unindexed URLs are showing errors of no return tags because Google hasn't indexed them in the sitemap. How do you recommend implementing href lang tags in sitemaps when we are unable to control the amount of indexed URLs in sitemaps?
So you would get the same error if you would have the href tags in the URL or in the HTML as well. With the sitemap, you can expedite the discovery of the pages, but it's not a guarantee that we would index those pages. If we haven't indexed those pages, then you probably have to figure out why we haven't indexed them. There are a buttload of reasons why we wouldn't index pages. Typically boils down to quality of the page itself and its parents in the hierarchy, in the URL hierarchy. So, for example, if you have example.com/ vases / flowers / orchids.
There you go.
Then, if we know for sure that the flowers path or the flowers parent has high quality pages, then we are more likely to give the benefit of doubt to a newly discovered page under that parent. But if we know that the flowers parent doesn't have or typically doesn't have high quality content, then we are more reluctant about indexing URLs from under that parent. Does this make sense?
Yes.
Okay, let's keep moving here. We got a lot. This is a more general question. And Eric, I'm getting a lot of echo. I don't know if that's coming from your speakers.
That's me.
Okay. Clint Borrell of Balsam Brands asked, how important is schema markup to SEO going forward?
I would say very. We use, well, not just us, but other search engines as well, use schema or structured data in general to better understand the content of the pages. And I think in the future we will rely more and more on that, not just Google, but other search engines as well. Why? Because it's easier to understand what's happening on the page, what the page is about, if we have a structured information in general.
Right. So it's a reminder to people really that we all want to think that the job the job that Google does is fantastic, but we tend to think that Google is nearly omnipotent in its ability to understand what's happening on websites. But Schema acts, at the very least, as a strong confirming signal when it is in sync with the content of the page, which of course is a must. And you need to remember that. And then in certain cases, it results in enhanced markup in the search results, which is a bonus.
Yep.
All right, let's keep it moving. Great answer. Doc Sheldon wants to know, Gary, when you tweeted most meta and link tags outside the HTML head section are ignored, should we assume that includes link rels?
Oh, link rels, definitely.
Okay. Simple answer. I'm going to jump down to this one because I think this is one that I hear from a lot of people. I get asked it a lot. This is from Laura Crest. Is the prevailing wisdom that webmasters should tag all outbound links as nofollow?
Yeah,
and
no.
No, right. Does the common WP plugin that opens links in a new window accomplish that, according to Googlebot?
So I'm really angry at news sites in general, for example, because of two reasons. Well, some news sites for three reasons, but the two major reasons is that they don't link back anymore to smaller publications or blogs or whatever, because they are probably afraid of linking back, which is stupid. And the other thing is that they would nofollow everything in my grandmother for whatever reason, probably still because they are afraid of getting hit by something. The internet is built upon links. Links are essential for the internet. I was reading a news article yesterday night, and there was I think it was I don't remember what news site was it, but they mentioned several times a certain site, but they only used the name of the site. They never linked out to it. And after I searched for the site, I realized that there are two companies or two sites two companies that are called the same way. One is in the one is in the UK, one is in the US. And then I had to figure out which site they are talking to, which is stupid because I could have avoided the whole searching situation by just clicking a link on the article itself. That's
it's a personal frustration for us. We've had our stats from our studies cited by major news sites with, maybe they mention our name at most, but no link. And to me, that's a disservice to the user, because how can the user vet that our study is even correct or use good methodology? They can't see it.
Yeah, I think you would use nofollow when you really, really don't trust an article or an external resource, or if you think that the external resource is just really shady or whatever. I don't even know when you would use it. Just for, if you are a news site and you're linking out, then it's unlikely you would get hit for that. I mean,
yeah, so here's an article I wrote a while back, by the way, about this topic, because it really does, it drives me nuts too. I get angry about it too, because this idea is, if I write an article like I write for Search Engine Land or Moz, for example, hopefully it's because they trust me, and so if that's the case, then they should show that trust, not just by printing my article, but by sharing a link which is not nofollow. There's no reason for it. If you don't trust it, that's the criteria that I have in mind. In commonplace is people shove links in blog comments or user-generated content, or it's a purchased link. An ad. Sorry, not a purchased link, but an ad.
All right, let's jump to another topic here. This is from Jose Sotelo Cohen, who asks, if I no-index, he says all my pages, but I think this could apply to any no-indexing. If I no-index pages and they don't show up on Google for a while, if I remove the no-index tag, will I be able to recover the positions in a short time or will it start from 0?
In general, it depends how much is the short
Depends
time.
on the crawl rate. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I think someone just...
Yeah, somebody jumped in there. I don't know who that was.
Oh my god.
You were going
being
a little
hacked.
slow in the answer, so I just thought I would fill something in.
So if you know index... Okay, can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Okay.
I
let me see here, get
overcomplicated
back
it
to
in my
it
head.
quickly. All right, you said if I know index pages
Mhm.
and they don't show up for a while, so Google honored the no index.
Yeah.
I remove the tag. Will I recover my positions in short order?
Yeah, okay.
Or
So it depends how much is that for a short time. If it's just a few days, then it's very likely that the signals are still lingering around, and you will just regain pretty much everything that you had. If it's weeks, months, then you will pretty much start from the bottom.
So you do lose the benefit over time. It
Yeah.
decays.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's
I mean,
good to know.
the links pointing to the site will still be there, or not the site. The page will still be there, but there are other signals that don't stick around if we see that the URL doesn't exist anymore.
All right, I'm going to ask a rank brain question here, just
great.
because
That's
I
exactly
know
what
we all
I
feel the
needed.
way, but it'll give you a chance, I think, for many of the people listening to clarify some of the misconceptions that are out there. So just deal with it quickly. But Frank McMillan asked, does rank brain mean that links will someday be irrelevant and Google's assessment of a page's authority will be strictly based on its content as interpreted by Google?
I think that's a general misconception of rank brain. Rank brain helps in a certain set of or certain subset of queries, and it helps us better understand which which pages work better for certain queries. We have, I don't know how many examples we gave for this, but my favorite one is, can I win a game of Super Mario without consulting walkthrough? Without rank brain, it would be very hard for us to understand the negation in the query, the without part, and to rank the appropriate pages for this, or actually retrieve even the page that should rank first for this. Rank brain helps with that, and that's it. Whether links will go away eventually, I don't see that happening anytime soon. I don't think it was ever mentioned in our launch meetings. I doubt that anyone would bring it up anytime soon.
Well, I mean, my limited dabbling in machine learning, in which I have done some, it tells me that if you were to implement an algorithm to improve the way you look at links or something like that, that would be a different machine learning algorithm with different training signals. And maybe I'm wrong about that, but you know, the training algorithm to handle one kind of thing, in this case, improved language understanding and query processing, is not really going to resemble the training algorithm to understand some other aspect of things. It's just my...
Yeah, I will not confirm or deny that.
Oh, there you go.
We've got only a couple minutes left here, so I'm going to group together several questions and just ask. Do you know? Can you tell us anything about?
Is that like cheating?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
That's what Mark does. He cheats.
That's my job.
He's our black hat.
And the closer we get to the end of the show, the more I cheat. So AMP, accelerated mobile pages. Okay, what can you tell us about how that's going? Adoption, plans for the future. How's that working out for Google?
That's it.
Anything you want to say about AMP?
So I'm less involved with AMP. John is focusing a lot on AMP. I will give a few keynotes on AMP in the next couple months, I guess. But I still have to ramp myself up on it because, I just wasn't paying too much attention to it. I was focused on other things. How is it going for us? I think it's going excellent. Of course, there's lots to to do around AMP. I think the specification turned out to be excellent, and the proof of concept works really great. When you find an AMP search result and you click on it, you will see why. You will understand very fast why we are pushing for it. Basically, the content loads in like this fast.
So yeah, we did some tests on our end, by the way. So there are AMP pages available for the Stone Temple blog, and then we went and measured things like the page size, and the original page size before AMP version was just under 100 kbytes. Then the AMP version was around 28 kbytes. That explains right away why it would load faster. And then we also ran the pages in PageSpeed Insights, and we got a rather the 42 for the native page. And then with the AMP page loading out of the Google cache, we got an 88. So started to kick some serious butt.
The cache makes a huge difference for loading. I mean, if your servers are in the United States and I'm a user in Japan, then the data has to cross a trans-Pacific cable.
Right.
That already takes time. It's a long distance. It's really the long distance, and there are lots of components, network components in the way that will slow down the data transfer, just a tiny bit, but enough that you will notice it. You can see this right away if you try to, or for me, it's very visible if I try to load a page from Australia, for example, and it's hosted in Australia. It will be freaking slow.
Yeah, absolutely.
If it's cached somewhere near you, and CDNs can do this similarly, then it will load much faster.
Yeah.
One thing to remember about AMP is that currently it's only available, or in the search results anyway, it's only available for new sites. I'm not 100% sure about what are our plans on this. I did hear a few things, but I would not say it out loud until I confirm it with my superiors, I guess, or the AMP people at least. Yeah, I think it's doing great. Stay tuned. There will be more announcements, and definitely watch I/O, not just because of AMP, but other things as well.
Yeah, so just treat the Stone Temple Consulting site as a news site, and we'll be okay. So unfortunately, go ahead, Mark.
I know I say we share news. Just want to emphasize to people that we had like 30, 40 more questions. We will attempt to get to those and answer those to you personally. It might take a little time because we have so many, but we do thank everybody that submitted a question for today's show.
No, absolutely, and we'll start working on those later today and tomorrow. Gary, you can expect to start seeing some tweets tomorrow. So unfortunately, we are at the end of our time.
Oh no!
Yes, we are. I was actually planning to spend the rest of the afternoon here and see if I could keep you up till 2 in the morning, Gary, but you probably do that anyway, it'd be my guess. But
I just finished watching the first 3 seasons of The Blacklist, and I was watching it until like 3 a.m. and shit. So,
I love The Blacklist. It's an awesome show.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
So what do you think happened to Liz?
Yeah, and the question is she really dead? But
yes.
Now the important questions come out when the show is
yeah, exactly.
This is what
the show is really about. So, but with that, everybody, thanks for watching. We really appreciate it. Hopefully, Gary will do more of these with us in the future.
Mark is not present.
Well, okay, so now we have some guidelines that are important. And next time we ask him, he'll say as long as Eric's not present. But anyway.
I was kidding, by the way.
So thanks, everybody. I'm going to stop the broadcast now, and have a great day.